Not everyone around you wants to see you win. That's not negativity, that's reality. Because sometimes, the people closest to you are the ones who feel it the most when you start changing. Not because they hate you, but because your growth forces them to look at themselves. And most people avoid that at all costs. At the beginning, everything feels normal. You laugh together, talk every day, share the same habits, the same mindset, the same routines. It feels natural, comfortable, familiar. You think, these are my people. There's history, shared experiences, inside jokes. And because of that, you trust it. But then, something shifts. You start taking your life seriously. You become more focused, more disciplined, more intentional. You stop wasting time. You start thinking long-term. You begin asking different questions. What am I doing with my life? Where is this going? What do I actually want? And slowly, you begin to separate. Not physically, but mentally. The things that used to excite you don't hit the same anymore. Late nights feel pointless. Certain conversations feel empty. And you start noticing things you didn't see before. The lack of ambition, the repetition, the comfort in staying the same. And that's when it happens. The shift in energy. The same people who used to support you start reacting differently. Not directly, not aggressively, but subtly. They joke about your goals. They question your effort. They downplay your vision. You've changed. It's not that serious. Why are you doing all that? And on the surface, it sounds harmless. But it's not. Because behind those words is discomfort. Your growth is disrupting the balance. Because as long as you were the same, everyone felt equal. No pressure, no comparison, no tension. But now, you're moving forward. And not everyone is ready to move with you. So, instead of stepping up, they try to pull you back. Not always intentionally, but through behavior, through doubt, through subtle resistance, through energy that doesn't match yours anymore. And if you're not aware, you'll feel it. You'll start second-guessing yourself. You'll start slowing down. You'll start shrinking just to keep the connection. Because deep down, you don't want to lose people. You don't want things to change. You don't want to be alone. So you compromise, little by little. You delay your goals. You quiet your ambition. You tell yourself, I'll focus later. But later never really comes. And that's how people stay stuck for years. Not because they lack potential, but because they stayed in the wrong environment. Here's the truth most men need to hear. Growth creates distance, and not all friendships are built to survive that. Some friendships are built on convenience. Same environment, same habits, same level. So when you outgrow those habits, you outgrow the connection. And that's where it gets uncomfortable, because now you're forced to choose. Stay the same and keep the circle, or grow and risk losing it. Most men choose comfort. They hold themselves back just to stay accepted. They dim their ambition to avoid tension. They play smaller just to maintain familiarity. And over time, that becomes frustration, because deep down, you can feel it. You know, you're meant for more, but your environment keeps pulling you back. And the longer you ignore it, the heavier it gets. The more it drains you, the more it slows you down. Until one day, you realize you've been standing still while time kept moving. Here's something you need to understand. Your circle is not neutral. It either pushes you forward or holds you in place. There is no in-between. The people around you shape your standards, your mindset, your habits, your expectations. If you're surrounded by people who avoid discipline, who avoid growth, who stay comfortable, you will feel resistance every time you try to evolve. You'll feel like you're fighting your environment every step of the way. But when you're around people who are focused, who are building, who are improving. You rise naturally, without forcing it, without overthinking it, because the standard is higher, because growth becomes normal. That's the power of environment, and that's why you have to be honest with yourself. Not everyone in your life is meant to grow with you, and that doesn't make them bad people. It just means they're on a different path. But if you ignore that, you'll stay stuck trying to balance both worlds, growth and comfort. And that balance never works. At some point, you have to choose, because not all support is real. Some people support you, as long as you stay within their limits. As long as you don't outgrow them, as long as you don't change too much. But real support has no conditions. Real friends don't feel threatened by your growth. They don't compete with you. They don't downplay your effort. They don't make you feel guilty for improving. They push you. They challenge you. They respect your vision, even when it's different from theirs. That's rare. But that's what real brotherhood looks like. And once you experience that, you'll never settle for less, because you'll feel the difference. No tension, no hidden competition, no subtle negativity. Just alignment, just growth. So if things feel different right now, pay attention. If certain people don't feel the same, pay attention. If the energy has shifted, pay attention. Because growth reveals everything. It shows you who supports you and who only supported the version of you that stayed the same. And that realization can feel heavy, because it forces you to let go of what's familiar, of what felt safe, of what you thought would last. But that's part of the process. Because as you grow, your circle has to evolve, or you'll outgrow it. And sometimes that means being alone for a while. No constant conversations, no validation, no distractions. Just you and your path. And that phase is where most men quit. Because it feels empty, because it feels quiet, because it feels like you lost something. But you didn't lose anything. You created space. Space to think clearly, space to build yourself, space to become who you're supposed to be. And if you can handle that phase, everything changes. Because eventually, you start attracting different people. People who think like you, who move like you, who value growth the same way you do. People who don't feel threatened by your progress, but inspired by it. People who challenge you, without trying to control you. People who hold you accountable, without tearing you down. That's when things shift. That's when you realize you didn't lose people. You outgrew environments, and you made space for something better, something stronger, something aligned. So if you're starting to feel distance, don't panic. Don't chase old connections just to feel comfortable again, because comfort can cost you your future. Instead, lean into the discomfort. Trust your growth. Trust the process. Even when it feels slow, even when it feels uncertain. Because progress isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, consistent, and invisible at first. But over time, it builds. And eventually, it changes everything. And understand this clearly. Not everyone around you is meant to go where you're going. And once you accept that, you stop shrinking yourself for people who were never meant to grow with you. You stop explaining yourself. You stop holding back. You move differently, with clarity, with purpose. And that is when everything starts to change. Because you're no longer trying to fit in. You're finally becoming who you were meant to be.